Thank you for those that have joined us. I'll just do a brief introduction. Chris Black, who's been, when did you join the TERT team, Chris?
2003. Sounds like a great
It
year.
was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Yes, it was.
So he's joined us and has been a team leader now for many years and is part of the board, TERT board currently. Has a lot of expert knowledge in the topic he's speaking of. Works with Provo City and then the county level on supporting the very thing, the 800 megahertz system and radios. And well, I'll let you continue on with what you want to talk about there. I'll turn it over to Chris.
Okay, well, we're having this training because we have new radios. Some of you have heard we have public safety radios, which are different than the ham radios. They're the same. They're the same radios. They have the same talk groups. We'll call them channels for simplicity, as law enforcement and search and rescue and things like that. So we have these radios, and we're going to use them to supplement our existing ham communications. We have enough radios for there to be a radio at High Camp and both trailheads and Stewart Falls. So we've had them on the mountain for a few weeks now. And in deploying them, we knew there would be some questions and some just operational training that needed to take place. So that's the purpose of this. So as I have a list of things that we want to talk about, please feel free to jump in, ask a question at the time. Don't wait till the very end. Let's just have a great discussion about how we can use these radios to our benefit on the team. I'm going to add a few other small pieces of information that don't necessarily pertain to just the use of 800 radios, but maybe communications on the mountain in general. The first point I want to reiterate, you've all been told this, and we're going to repeat it several times, but the team leader is the leader of the mountain when we're on duty. So I say that because there's a lot of communication that happens. There's a lot of things coming in from dispatch or from different sources, information, and we want to funnel that always through the team leader. He's going to act sort of like as our incident commander. He's going to be our leader and direct how we as a team handle things on the mountain. All weekend reports go to the team leader. So your trailhead reports, your Stewart Falls report, send those to the team leader, and they will bring them all together and compile one big report that'll be sent to the whole team and to the sheriff's office. When you're on post somewhere, particularly one of the trailheads, let the team leader know if you're going to leave your post. So say you're at Timpaniki and you want to go back over to your campsite, just call them up, let them know that that's what you're doing. Timpaniki, we're going to go back to the campsite. We're going to have dinner. We're probably going to be gone a half an hour. Great. He just wants to know, the team leader wants to know what's going on. And by letting him know your movements, he or she is familiar with what's happening. There are several talk groups on these new radios, and our primary talk group for use is what they call Ops 11, Operational Channel 11. It's just Ops 11 on the radio, and there'll be lots of others that are available. We have Search and Rescue, we have some law channels, we have Landing Zone 1 and Landing Zone 2, we have the Utah Valley Hospital. We have lots of communications channels, but we've been granted the use of Ops 11, which is a shared channel. We've been given that use. We have it checked out to us as a team for every weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday until mid-September. So that's been reserved for our use. Any questions so far? Okay. Our next thing we want to talk about is the how does this relate to the auto patch? You know, normally we receive calls, we check on and off duty. We're going to continue to do that. So we're going to use the auto patch to call in to dispatch and check on duty on Friday and off duty when we all leave on usually Sunday morning. When we do so, we'll let them know. We're just kind of keep it kind of brief. We're just going to say, when the answer, say, hey, this is the TERT team, letting you know that we're on the team. Oh, sorry, we're on the mountain for the weekend, and please put us on the CAD screen. And they'll say, okay. They might ask you some more questions, but it's going to vary by dispatcher. So just that minimum information. The team is on duty. Please mark us down. Also related to the auto patch, we continue to do our code 4 checks. So we check in with them. Until we hear otherwise, we're going to stick with what we had done in the past, which is 9, 12, 15, and 18. So 9, 12, 3, and 6. And that purpose of that, they've asked us to do that so that so each of the different shifts have a touch point with our TERT team and remember that we're out there. It's just, it familiarizes them with the auto patch, with talking on the auto patch to the team, and it also kind of reminds them that we're out there and available for emergencies as they come up. Another point we want to emphasize is when the auto patch rings in, and normally it's Aspen Grove Trailhead answers the auto patch most of the time. Now, what you should do though is ask the team leader for that weekend on Friday how he wants to handle the auto patch. Sometimes the team leader will say, go ahead, Aspen Grove, go ahead and you handle the answering of the auto patch because you have the best signal. You can get to it more quickly. Sometimes the team leader likes to just answer the auto patch from the top of the mountain. So their discretion, you get to just kind of ask them what they want and how they want to handle it so that the weekend goes really smoothly. When we receive calls on the auto patch, again, going back to the team leader being in charge, we need to let the team leader have a moment to break in and talk to the dispatcher or the sheriff's deputy that's talking, because they may have more information or desire more information. And so just because you answer the auto patch doesn't mean you need to do all the talking. So you could, pause a second, say, hi camp, do you have any questions? Are you clear on that? Do you want to ask anything? And the high camp team leader can jump on the radio, fill in any information that they need, and close it out. The text question was, when we check on with dispatch during the day, do we tell them that we are code 4? And yes, so that's the point. So the script is kind of like, we hit the code and it dials on 911 and they say, 911, what is your emergency? What is the location of your emergency? You can say, hey, this is TERT 1J540. We're letting you know we're code 4 on the mountain. And they say, okay, thank you. And then we hang up the patch and then we do our radio IDs. One thing we've noticed is kind of confusing for them is if we have a conversation and then they think we're going to hang up and then we start giving our call sign and stuff. It's this odd exchange of information that they don't understand. So it's best just to hang up the auto patch and then do your required identification. Here's another one. When you're, well, let me just say it like this. High camp breaks the nighttime radio silence. Do not wake them unnecessarily. So high camp will get up at whatever time they get up and let them be the first ones to talk on the radio. Let them call Trailhead and say, hey, we're alive. We had a great night. Good weather. We slept well, whatever. I know some of the Trailhead folks are really eager to start talking to them. Let me tell you from experience, it's a long hike up the mountain, and sometimes we like to sleep in a few extra minutes. So don't wake them up. Let them start the radio chatter for the day. This last section will be on specifically 800 megahertz protocols, things that we've decided how we're going to handle things. So first point, I mentioned it earlier, we're going to use the public safety radio to augment our mountain communications. So we're going to use whichever radio makes the most sense. We can still use our ham radio, but when we want to talk, it's interestingly enough, we have a good enough coverage now with these 800s that we can talk to both trailheads and Stewart and high camp all together, crystal clear communications. And so if we want to talk to everyone at the same time, the choice is probably going to be on the 800. So it provides excellent communications from all of our mountain positions. We're learning that there may be some weaker spots up on the actual mountain. If you get really close to the cliffs or something near Emerald Lake, but for the most part, it works great no matter where you are. I talked about how Ops 11 is our channel. It's not going to be monitored normally by the dispatchers. They have a lot of channels that they're listening to throughout the day, and Ops 11 is like a tool in their toolbox, but they're not listening to it full time. So if we just grab the radio and pick it up and say, you know, TERT to Central Dispatch, they're not going to answer probably because they're not listening. They have it turned down. And so we've got a protocol in place that if we were to need them, the team leader will go over to another channel, call them and ask them to come over to this one. But because Ops 11 is a channel that is on so many radios and monitored practically, well, for several hundred miles, people have this channel in their radios. We need to treat the channel as if it were being monitored. We are a professional service. We don't want to sound like we're not. So we're free to talk on it. We're free to use it. We're just keep it within some limits. I'm not going to say exactly what those are, because sure, you could say something funny or you could say a joke or something, but we just don't need to take it for granted and then lose it because we sound like we're not very professional. Now, the public safety radio has, as I said, several different talk groups. All these responding agencies have their own channel, and dispatch has the ability to patch those channels together. So often on incidents, we'll be dealing with North Fork Fire, we'll be dealing with search and rescue, the sheriff's office, or a number of other different groups could be interacting with us. Dispatch can and usually will, especially if we ask them, patch our channel, Ops 11, with another channel. So recently, the past few weeks, there were emergencies going on. Search and rescue was called out. So they patched Ops 11 to search and rescue. So all of our communication was instantly joined. Be aware that as they're patched, that just makes the more people that are patched together, the more channels that are patched together, the more talking that takes place. And so it becomes a busier channel. But it remains our incident, and we need to, use our tools, use our radio. And if, particularly when search and rescue is responding, I don't know if you ever monitored them, but all of the responders are coming from different places in the county, and they will call dispatch to say they're going en route. That creates a lot of chitter chatter on the radio. In case it's too much and you can't get a word in, remember we still have our ham radio. We still have our TERT frequency F1 and F2 if we needed to, that we could use.
So Chris, just something else to point out. So in cases, even this past weekend, the sergeants with the emergency services might call us on that radio out of the blue. So we could have dispatch, which usually goes by central. We could have 502 or 503, who are Sergeants Chappell and Sergeant Gordon. They might jump on that channel and start calling us. So that could happen at any time.
Right. Another plug for being professional all the time. but just know that they may jump in, and that's a good point. We do answer to our sergeant, which is from Emergency Services, 502 or 503. That's their 2 radio numbers. And they may come on, give us a call. They may just ask us how things are going. So expect that they may jump in. And that's the beauty of the public safety radio, is they can do that from anywhere they are. Likewise, any of us that have a radio know that it will operate pretty much, I won't say the entire state, but a large footprint. I can get on that channel and talk to you as if I was right there on the mountain with you. And so if you do have a radio, one of the things we want to emphasize is, and you just want to jump on there and say, hey, TERT, how's things going? We encourage everyone to listen before they talk. So turn on that channel, Ops 11, listen to see what's going on. Then make your contact, the same thing you do on HF or a repeater. Make your contact and ask if things are busy. If it's not, then proceed to ask them, how many goats are on the mountain or whatever you want to talk about. But first, before jumping in the middle of a incident, you should just be cautious and see what's going on.
Hey, Chris, we have a question. Somebody's wondering what the radios look like.
Jared, can you make yours show up? There you go. Can you guys see Jared's screen?
Does it show up with my funny screen thing on?
It's kind of flickering on and off a little bit, but we see it's a
invisible radio.
It's there. It's a hardened case radio. It's got a display on the front. It's got a dial on the top that provides 16 channels, and it has another dial on the top that is a click on off, and it also sets the volume. And it has an antenna that's maybe 6 or 8 inches long. We have, I think, a spare battery now for each. I don't remember if we do. Yes, I think we do. A spare battery for each radio.
The other batteries that we just gave out were for the 2-meter ones. So
okay.
We don't have spares yet. These will run for almost 24 hours with the 2,500 milliamp hour nickel metal hydrides that they've got. We do have charger bases at both High Camp and both trailheads. Stewart does not have one, but theirs should last easily for the day.
Easily last for the day. Yeah, they have been equipped with brand new batteries, and they do hold a charge really well. I think that should answer the question. Let's move on to our next point.
A real quick question, Chris.
Go ahead, Glenn.
Maybe you said this already, but do you leave this on all night up at High Camp?
I didn't answer that. I don't know. We certainly
can.
We can.
Yeah, and in fact, you can plug the radio into the base and charge it while it's turned on.
It's a good point. So we can leave it turned on while it's sitting in the drop-in charger. So I guess we would probably leave it on at High Camp. Speaking of charging, we want to make sure that they're ready, charged and ready for the next week in duty. So if you're on one of those trailheads, make sure the radios are all collected at the end of your weekend and they're put on the charger. And they require just a little bit of finesse to make sure that it aligns properly and that the charge light comes on. So you can set it in the cradle and it'll be a little shifted to the side and it won't charge. So you want to make sure that it aligns in the grooves and the light comes on. And yes, they are kept inside the trailhead shack. And if you are coming up to do Stewart, you do go to the shack to obtain your first aid kit, your radio, your tent, everything you need for the day. You guys probably aware of this, our call sign on the public safety, we're 1J540. There's no rules about identification like on ham where you do it at every 10 minutes and at the end of your transmission. You just identify yourself as needed or as appropriate. So for instance, if I were to call someone, I would probably identify who I was. So Central, this is 1J540. Or if you're talking between radios on the mountain, we might say Aspen Grove to High Camp, and then High Camp would maybe call Tempaniki, whatever. We can just use that tactical type call sign when we're on the mountain. So hiked up. Martin, there is the radio for High Camp stays at High Camp. Is that right, Andrew or Jared?
We
I
have
think
been
it does.
down and locking it in the shack with the other
Okay.
radio. And that way that the team leader, as he's going up, I mean, you're up for 2 or 3 hours on the trail. So
I see.
you have the radio with you when you're going. We used to have the VHF public service radios, and I don't think we're going to continue with those. So we're swapping out the VHF with the 800.
Okay. So it sounds like we will go ahead and bring the radio down, and that'll afford the high camp team the use of that radio while they're hiking up or down for the weekend. That does make sense. Let's see. I talked about other channels being programmed in the radio. This is the last point I really have. We want to stay on our channel. We want to stay on the channel, the Ops 11, and basically don't wander to other or stray onto other channels where we're not needed, unless the incident and the, again, high camp team leader directs us to do so. So if we have an incident and say the helicopter is going to be coming, well, Central may go ahead and patch landing zone 1, LZ1, into Ops 11. But if they don't, we could move our traffic or a certain contingency over to LZ1 and have them set up the landing zone and speak with the helicopter as needed. But basically, we have lots of channels available to us, but let's stay on the channel that we've been given so we don't accidentally get in the wrong place and cause disruption that we'll be embarrassed about. What other questions?
Yeah, some of the channels, like the one that's called Law 1 and Law 2, are used by law enforcement across the county. So there's often calls and traffic with deputies and such. You don't want to be jumping on there and talking just randomly. The LZ channels might be used for operations other than ours, and they could be used anywhere in the state. So, again, if you get in there, you might be talking to some, interfering with an operation happening somewhere else. That's just it's just like any other ham channel. Be aware of where you are and what that channel is used for.
Exactly. So I think the fact that we have these radios speaks to the professionalism of our team. The county does value us and respects us and considers us an important part of the public safety response to incidents. And they put a lot of trust in us having some of these other channels, and we need to make sure that we don't lose that trust. Are there any other questions? Anyone wants to speak up or type it in?
If there's any questions during the weekend, always go to the team leader about it. Or if there's problems with the radio, I think one thing we didn't talk about is that when you press the talk button, there is a slight pause followed by a triple beep sound, and that means you have the channel, you can talk. If you get a steady tone that's lower frequency tone, that means it was unable to get the channel and you need to let go of the push to talk. It's a little bit different than ham radios that way. But so two people try to talk at the same time, one will get the channel, the other one will not get the channel. And you'll get the tone that says you didn't get it, you need to let go, and then you can hear the other person that's talking.
That's right. Good point, Andrew. Yes, when you do key up the radio, a lot of things happen on a trunking system, but what's happening is it's assigning you an actual frequency and getting everybody together, and then it'll triple beep really fast and let you know that you can talk. So keep the push to talk depressed, give your message, and then let go. Let's see. Steve asked if North Fork will be on Ops 11. They do have the option to go there. they also operate off of Fire 5, I believe. So they're going to either be patched or they'll come find us. That's what I understand. And Lance needs to know, does Trailhead leave them in the shack overnight or take them to camp? Timpaniki, the signal is a little weaker over, actually it's quite weak over at the campsite. So it may not even work at the campsite. What we've done is we've installed some Yagis on the top of the shacks, and so you'll actually take that portable radio, particularly at Timpaniki, and screw the antenna cable into the top of the handheld to make it work.
One of the luxuries they have at Trailheads is when they're sitting in the shack, it can be charging the whole time they are in the shack. So if they've kept it topped off and kept it in the base while they're at the shack, then they could have the luxury to take it back to camp with them. Kind of the opposite paradigm as high camp, actually. While we're talking about equipment, Chris, do you want to tell them about this button on the top?
I didn't mention it because I don't know if it's programmed, but we'll assume that it is. There is an orange button at the top of the radio. That is an emergency, like a man down button. And if you press it, if you depress it, and it's a predetermined amount of time, a second, 2 seconds of being held down, it sets off an alert at the dispatch center on their consoles and gets all of them pretty excited, and they start calling, asking you if you're okay. So if it's programmed, or even if it's not, we'll just pretend that it is. Don't push it. Don't push it unless you've really got some big problem, and that would mean that you can't speak or you're injured and you've because they're gonna start calling you on the radio saying, "Are you okay? What's your last location? Where was he? Okay, we're gonna have to have someone to go check on this person." It's a pretty big deal. So orange, no. Most of the time.
If you have problems or trouble or questions during the weekend, refer them to the team leader up there. If the team leader has questions, you can refer to the board. Reach out to us with questions, because I know a lot of the team leaders have not used these radios before, so it'll be a learning experience for many of them, and I think some patience will be needed this year as we are adapting to the new system, the new radios.
Now that we have these, the team leader now has another resource, and that tends to be the board, because they all have radios as well. So since we have had them, we've pretty much monitored what's going on top of the mountain over the weekend from wherever we are anyway. So if you had a question, you could reach out. You now have a new resource because of the increased ability to communicate. But you're still the leader on the mountain, so we'll advise, but you're in charge.
Yes, don't be surprised if one of the board members happens to jump on the radio in the middle of the day and just say how things are going. So that is a good option too, because that could be done from anywhere, almost in the state. They could be able to reach to the team, not unlike the auto patch, but a little easier to use than the auto patch in some ways. And then I saw a question actually popped in: are the regular ham TERT channels monitored during the week? We don't have anybody monitoring the TERT frequencies. If someone is up there, maybe during the week, they might have. Sometimes I'll have the radio on when I'm up in the mountains during the week, but I don't expect anybody else to be on there. So no, we don't monitor it. When we tell dispatch we're off the mountain, the assumption is that nobody's monitoring the auto patch. No one's going to monitor or answer any calls. Ops 11 is only on these radios for the weekend. So during the week we wouldn't have it. It could be used for any number of other purposes that is necessary. So don't be surprised if you happen in the middle of the week, if you happen to have that channel on, if you hear other traffic going on. because they could assign it for a special event or something.
As far as the ham TERT channels, they are reserved for our use, but they're not restricted to just that. So I know personally I use the TERT frequency quite a bit. If I'm out in the backcountry or something, it's already programmed in my radio. The other guy has it, we talk on it. It's just a simplex frequency. So if you were to be on the mountain and call someone, there's a chance that someone has it in their memories and scanning and might answer you, but there's no guarantees for sure. Well, this is the end of my training. I guess we will post the notes from this. We have recorded this, so it'll be available in a future for download or watching online. And we'll have this document that I've referenced as well for future training.
And with that, I say thank you again, and we'll go ahead and we'll finish for tonight.